Please hold the line. We will answer your call as soon as possible.
I'm Michael Schneider, CEO of Service, and today joining me is Jimmy Maymann. Jimmy is Executive Vice President of AOL and President of their consumer brands. Jimmy is looking on how to get the next billion eyeballs in the world and how to make money off them. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So my first question is about handball. I did a little bit of Googling on you, and you played professional handball in Denmark?
Yeah, semi-professional. I played when I was studying for my master degree in economics. I played at the highest level, which in Denmark is first division. So yes, I did indeed play handball.
What led you to give up on your Olympic dreams?
A combination of things. Handball is now actually a bigger sport in Europe than it was when I played. The problem with handball is there was perhaps, when I lived, there was perhaps 10 players in the world that actually lived really well playing handball, and then there was the rest that could get along, but you would never had. I played my full career as a handball player and retired at 33, which a lot of handball players does.
So you wanted to make money?
I wouldn't have been able to put any money aside, right? I would have had a good life, but I wouldn't have been able to put any money aside.
Do you think that the psyche of an athlete and the psyche of a businessman are the same? Like, are there any skills you took from that and use in business?
Oh yeah, without any doubt. Business is about competing, and obviously handball or sports is about competing. So there's a lot to be learned there, and you can learn obviously how you build successful teams. Handball is a team sport, and business is the same. There's nothing I can do here on my own, but with the right team, I think we can build and achieve a lot.
Yep. So you founded several companies in your career that were kind of just ahead of the curve, which is a good place to be, but not too far ahead.
Sometimes it's a good place to be, yes.
Yeah. So Neo IDEO
yes.
in '95, an internet consultancy in Scandinavia, which, by the way, in '95, I mean, even in the US, the internet was so nascent.
That is great.
I was 14, 15 year olds at the time, and actually I had an AOL screen name called Used Game, and I was selling video games online and asking my parents to drive me because I couldn't drive. So this is a long time ago.
It is a long time ago, yes.
And you were already playing in the internet. And then Pray4 in 2000 was an internet incubator. And of course, was it early 2000?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just before
yes.
the bubble.
Yes.
And then Go Viral in 05, which is online video distribution. It's how you wound up here.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how you managed to stay just ahead of the curve, but not too early.
It's a good question, and I think to your question, I think actually, if you think about the internet, which is the first company I built, I was actually inspired because in '94 I finished my bachelor degree in Denmark, and I took a year off traveling, and I spent 4 or 5 months here in the US driving around doing all kind of funny stuff. But at that point in time, the BBS system, bulletin boards and stuff like that, and the internet really started to catch on. And
was it CompuServe? Was it Prodigy? That kind of stuff?
CompuServe and Prodigy, both.
Okay.
Yeah.
CompuServe was really ugly, wasn't
it?
Yeah,
very, very ugly.
Yeah.
But the promise of it was actually quite interesting. So I went back studying from a master's thesis, and I actually wrote the thesis about the commercial opportunities that the internet would bring us. And around the same time, in parallel, actually, I built this company, and it was actually too early. Honestly, it was too early for Denmark. As you said, it was even early. It would have been early even here in the U.S.
Yep.
For Denmark, it was very early. The first, I would say, 2.5, 3 years, it was uphill battle, and every day I was wondering whether we should just close down shop and do something else.
Did you say you wrote a thesis?
I wrote a thesis about the commercial opportunities around the internet. How companies, advertisers, businesses could take advantage of the internet, and that actually became the stepping stone for the internet business that I created. It was an internet consultancy. It was an internet agency that created e-commerce solutions, web solutions, whatever. At that point in time, obviously there wasn't a lot of that, and in the early stages it was really just getting companies online with their one-pager, with their logo and the phone numbers, right? And then obviously over the course of the years, they wanted more sophisticated things. But in the early stages, it was really a tough job. It was kind of like calling everyone. It was basically a phone job, right? Just sitting there calling people.
In Denmark?
In Denmark.
So you were calling businesses saying I can help you sell on the internet, and they're like, what's the internet?
You need a presence on the internet, and to your point, yes, it was so early, so people were like, the internet, what's that thing, the internet?
How many internet users did Denmark have in 95?
In 95, less than 50,000. So as I said, the promise was big. But
what convinced you on that promise, though? What did you see that other people saw later but didn't see yet?
No, what I saw was this whole new way of people interacting, people engaging, people transacting. I think that's really what excited me at that point in time. And as you said, later, a couple of years later, everyone talked about the internet would change everything, right? But a little bit like me, the internet has changed almost everything, and digitalization will change most businesses, but it took longer than everyone expected, right? Rather than taking 5 years, it probably took 15 years for the big shifts to happen. But it came. So I always say sometimes it's good to start early. I in my young age I also used to surf. It's good to start on the small waves because you learn how to get up. But and you're ready for the big waves when they come. If you start on the big waves, you're probably going to be knocked over and you're not going to go back up because it's going to be a painful experience. In this case, I started a little bit too early on the small waves, I would say, in hindsight. Eventually in 97, 98, actually the big waves started to happen in Denmark and in the Nordics and then in Europe. So we were able to take the business, from a Danish business to Nordic business to then a European business, because some of the clients obviously ended up being bigger clients that had to have a solution that was wider than just for Denmark.
Yeah, well, you were prepared.
At that point in time, definitely prepared.
So in late 2015, so last year, you said that live video events and live streaming were going to be the next big thing. Since then, Facebook has added a live video tab to their app. Ustream was acquired by IBM. Twitter is now streaming NFL games and debates, presidential debates. So you kind of predicted that one.
I didn't do enough with it though, but you're right. We did do something with it, because where we sit here today in the AOL building, just the room next door, was where we launched HuffPost Live in 2012, which was very early for this new live wave that is coming. Yep. So we went out early and got a lot of learnings and was able to kind of pivot our way in to finding out how we should then position ourselves now that Facebook Live has launched, which is obviously a huge platform where you need to play if you're doing live. Yep. So yes, you're right.
Predict the future with me. Where do you see live video going, and what is AOL and Verizon doing in this space?
I think live video is in its infancy, so to say. I think all big media companies and all the platforms also are looking at this and obviously are finding out how they're going to play in this space. Lately, you've seen things that I wouldn't have imagined. Platforms like Twitter suddenly live streaming NFL games. You're going to see a lot more of that. Facebook was also bidding on those rights. Snapchat obviously has a lot of brands and live events going on. So I think that's, we're at the starting point, and it's going to be a very sophisticated ecosystem. That being said, live is only really valuable when you have big events, right? Big sport events, big music events, big news events.
World events?
Big world events, news events, yes. So I think live is good for some things, and then for other things it's not really relevant, because you're not going to be able to draw in a big enough audience for it to actually be meaningful. In some cases you can then cut it up and deliver it as an after-the-fact VOD experience. But the live stream, the tune in for the live, you need those kind of big things. So that's also why I say I think the rights for live things across platforms and media companies obviously is only going to increase in value, because you now have a whole new set of people that's bidding on those, right? You would never have expected Twitter to bid on NFL. In the past, it would always have been the big cable networks that would have been going for those rights.
Yep. I guess you could say that someone live streaming their kid's first birthday to relatives out of town is meaningful, but from your perspective, that's not monetizable.
No, and that that is obviously meaningful, and I think also from a crowdsource perspective and from a citizen journalism perspective, there's a lot of things with Periscope and with features like that can be quite interesting, and you can actually take and use in your coverage of certain events, right? As an example, when we had the Boston bombings, there was a lot of, the first video was actually a guy that was standing there with the iPhone, right? We took that, but also if you look back, all the big cable networks, the CNNs of the world, that was also the imagery that they were running with, right? This just goes to prove that obviously we cannot have reporters everywhere, every day, every minute. So obviously, to that end, these kind of new live streaming things also open up our ability to live stream from events where we don't have people, because we can capture those things through those features.
Last week in New York, there were some stuff going on in Chelsea, and there was a pressure cooker that exploded and all that kind of stuff. And then some people posted videos and photos and got a bunch of tweets saying, "So glad you're safe. I work for CNN. Can I use this? I work for NBC. Can I use this?" Where does that line fall? Like, is it if you're doing citizen journalism, should it fall? If anyone posts to social media, should it be fair game? Should you have like sort of your army of people that are already under contract? Like, what's the line there?
No, I think at the end of the day, it's the next evolution of what people. If we take a step back, people have been given technology and tools and have been empowered, right? For 50 years, we've just been broadcasting. We've been talking one way to people. We've been telling them what we wanted, when we wanted. Now, they've been liberated, and they're not going to come back to a broadcasting environment, right? So they want to narrowcast. They want to do what they can when they're in front of an event like that. And it's a little bit like blocking, right? You want your freedom to speak, you want your freedom to express yourself, and I think that's a great thing. Obviously, then you need.
But you want to sell an ad against it potentially.
No. I don't see a problem with that. Obviously, if it's done right, you have great Twitter platforms, you have great Tumblr platform. You have a Medium as a platform, right? You have great platforms for expression, and obviously, they will try to find ways to monetize that, because we all need to, find a way to monetize those content streams, because if we don't, those services is going to go away. Yeah. So I think, I won't say I think it's fair game. I think, we obviously need to think about, there's privacy concerns, there's things like that you have to think about, but I also do think that there's a lot of people that actually enjoy when they're getting recognized, right? There's a lot of people that would actually love to have their Periscope or whatever on CNN. Sure. Because they've shot it, right? So I think there's the balance, and the people that won't enjoy that, they might want to set up a more professional thing, right? And then have more of a monetary exchange for what's going on. And I think both things will happen.
So I want to tap into your ability to predict the future of tech when it comes to chatbots and customer service, selfishly, because that's my business. I'm curious, do you see any truly useful applications of chatbots today? And where do you see it in the next few years going? Is the 800 number going to go away? What happens?
Yeah, I think the 800 number is going to go away if we start with that. I also think if we think about chatbots, but right now, that is also in its infancy. I had the great pleasure of listening to David Marcus yesterday from Facebook, who obviously talked about what they're doing with their messenger service and what they're doing with chatbots, and I kind of share some of his point of views on it, which is that right now it's inflated in the sense that everyone is talking about it, but there's actually not a lot of great utility around the chatbots that are out there, which I think is right. That being said, the technology, artificial intelligence, and what you can do with chatbots, that promise, I think, is huge. And obviously, if you're looking to China and other places, I think they're even ahead on kind of how they're applying some of these things and are highly successful with that. So I have no doubt that 800 numbers and services like that will be valuable. Also personal assistants that can, with passive personalization, obviously learn about kind of what you like, what you don't like, and make suggestions for you both when it comes to restaurants, clothes, whatever. Yeah. I think is interesting. So I see.
What about e-commerce, shopping?
That too, without any doubt, as these algorithms, as these bots get more and more sophisticated, they're obviously going to be much, because they will gather a lot of data as they learn from us, and that means that they're going to be very good at predicting or advising on things, and why shouldn't that be able to lead to a sale? That's much more sophisticated than the traditional ad model that we all know today and see today on the internet.
So I've read that you consider yourself a CEO who builds things, but not really a maintainer. I think you said the exact quote was something like, you're not a janitor type, you build it, but maintenance isn't your thing. And once you get a product to a certain point, you're sort of ready to move on. But you've been in this building a long time. And
that is correct.
And I'm curious, post-acquisition and then HuffPost and now AOL, and you're also doing stuff with Verizon. What is it about this building that keeps you here and not going and starting another thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, in the past, I've never done anything more than 5 years, and I think, and it's not something I've planned. That's just been my rhythm. So everything I've done until this point has been 5 years, and it makes perfect sense because the first 3 years you're delivering. You have a great vision, great strategy, and you're trying to kind of perfect that and optimize that. But if you haven't delivered on that the first 3 years, then you haven't really put up the best strategy. So the next 2 years you always try to reinvent yourself, and it's very difficult to reinvent yourself. And you can do marginal things, but I do think the first 3 years is where you make the most impact.
Has the environment been reinvented around you enough that you're...
No, and that's my point. That's why I'm still in this. It's not so much this building, but if you look at what I've done here, it's actually quite different things, right? I sold my business. I spent some time integrating that, and I made it quite clear to Tim Armstrong, who's the CEO of AOL. I made it quite clear that I wanted to stay only if there was something that was intellectually challenging and intellectually stimulating. And that's when he introduced the HuffPost opportunity. And obviously, at that point in time, we talk about a HuffPost that was a big blog in the US that wanted to be built into an international media company. And that was a very exciting challenge. But I will also say it was also it was hard, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of travel. I spent 3 years, building HuffPost into what it is today: 15 markets, 200 million users, together with Ariana. But in the end, I was drained with energy, and I felt I needed to move on to my next thing. I couldn't see I had a 3-year plan when I came on, and at that point in time, I couldn't see the next 2 years. I couldn't see what the next thing was. I could have done incremental things at HuffPost, but it would have been, to your initial point, it would have been maintenance, right? It wouldn't have been more maintenance than it would have been building, which is why I said to Ariana and I said to Tim, I said, it's time for me to do something else. And I was actually ready to leave the building, but then they said no. Tim said, you should stay on. Verizon is coming in. We really want to be aggressive now in the content space, and obviously we spent the last 6 months on trying to buy Yahoo, and this summer was successful in acquiring Yahoo. So you could say I've had at least 3 different jobs over the course of the soon 6 years that I've been here. And I think that is the difference, because otherwise, to your point, I would probably have moved on to something else.
Who are you going to buy next?
It's a good question. I think right now we spend the majority of our time thinking about how best to integrate Yahoo, and obviously best to work with that team. I think Yahoo is a very valuable brand. There's a lot of talented people there, so we spend a lot of time trying to listen to them, see how that aligns with how we think about where we need to go as a combined set of assets. So before that is done, I think it wouldn't be doing them or being fair to them if we already started to look at the next big thing. That being said, there is no doubt Verizon is a very aggressive company as they're moving into the content space. So just because we acquired Yahoo, that's by no means the last acquisition that will happen from our side. But we just need to digest a little before we hit the gas pedal again.
So I was asking you about AOL. When a lot of people think about AOL, they think about free trial CDs, and Steve Case sort of blanketed the world with that. When they think about Yahoo, they think of maybe their email or something they used to use. Why do you think that the combination of one sort of historic internet brand and the other one under a third huge company, Verizon, works?
That's a good question, and that's obviously something that we need to prove to the world that it does work indeed, right? I think the premise, or the way I think about it, is that brands still matters, and especially when it comes to the internet ecosystem, scale matters. Right now you have two very big players. You have Facebook and Google that are taking more than their fair share of the online advertising ecosystem and money, right?
Is Facebook number one or Google's number one?
In terms of advertising, Google is number one. In terms of eyeballs, Facebook is actually potentially bigger, right? But Google is still doing a really good job of getting an unfair advantage in the sense that they're taking a big share of the advertising spend. And I think, by combining Yahoo, AOL, and AOL, it's not just kind of like that we're taking these legacy brands that used to connect people to the internet. It's obviously, hopefully, that we will be able to use that as a stepping stone, as a jump off point for a lot of new services, a new way of thinking about content, and also hopefully some new utilities. The big utility for both AOL and Yahoo was the email. Email was the big utility. That was the reason why a lot of people came to both AOL and Yahoo.
My mom still has an AOL address.
There's still a lot of people that have both AOL emails and Yahoo emails. So there's a lot of people that are coming because of that. But obviously, we wanna use that to recruit a new audience, because it's still a huge audience that are coming. The combined asset is 1.2, 1.3 billion users on a monthly basis. So it's a huge base, and you can say we have, to a certain extent, proved across AOL that we can change the trajectory of the company right over the course of the last 6 years. The turnaround AOL has been in. We've gone from being 100% dependent on those email users to now having a media and technology business, with a number of well-recognized brands like HuffPost, TechCrunch, and Gadget, you name it, right? So we have proven that on the back of an existing audience, you can actually build a new audience with new brand experiences, with new utility experiences, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same with Yahoo. That being said, Yahoo already have some amazing assets. You think about Yahoo Sports, the biggest in the sports category. You think about Yahoo Finance, Yahoo News, and also I just spent the day today at Tumblr. Tumblr, from my perspective, is a hugely undervalued asset. There's a huge potential still with Tumblr. So I think reimagining some of those things together with Yahoo, and then also coming up with new ways of engaging both the audience we have, but also new audience, I think is a huge opportunity we have. And I actually like the very hardcore product focus that Yahoo is bringing into the equation here. Marissa has done a good job with that. I know that there's a lot of people that are saying she's been very unsuccessful. I think on the product side, she's done amazing thing. If you go out to the campus in Sunnyvale, you'd see the energy. You'd see that people are really excited about the products that they're trying to build. Whether those products will work, time will tell. But at least that has definitely improved under Marissa, no doubt about that.
So one last question. You're a pretty good multitasker. You worked while getting your MBA. Neo Ideal was bought by Leo Burnett, and you were a director at Leo Burnett, and you were getting your MBA at London Business School. You were working, you were going to school, you were married, you were starting a family. As somebody whose wife is also an entrepreneur and has a 10-month-old, any tips for balancing family and work, and how do you do it?
No, I think it's a little bit like sports, right? If you think about athletes, they have to be 100% committed to that, and then that is what you do, right? I haven't spent my whole youth partying, or at least not since I established my own family, right? I also haven't spent a lot of time hanging with my friends after I established my family, right? Because I haven't had the time to do that. So I had to cut that part away, which is also what you do when you're a professional sports person, right? You cannot have those. Unfortunately, you cannot have all those things in your life. So it's about priorities, right? It's about focus, just as it is. If you want to be successful in business, you need to focus on the things that matters for you. And I think in your private life, that's obviously individual what matters to you. But when you have a family, that is obviously important. And when you put a child into this world, you obviously want to make sure you put enough time into that part of the equation as well, because otherwise I don't think you will feel successful even though you might succeed with your business. So for me, that was always the thing, it's not enough.
So for you, there was no balance. It wasn't everything. It was work and family.
Yes.
And
that was it.
Kind of it.
That for me, that was, I had, at the end of the day, that and that's tough.
But if you want to go to a movie on the weekend and your family's busy.
Yeah, no, but and it's not obviously that, it's not that I don't have friends, I'm not seeing friends, but it's just, it is, tough, and you have to make tough choices, I think, if you want to prioritize the things that at that point in time of your life is the ones that matters the most. And as you know, as an entrepreneur is not 9 to 5, right? It's a little bit more than that. So it's also about it's also about finding out, where is it and how do you balance that with family time, right? When you have quality time. I actually don't believe in quantity time. I believe in quality time, right? So you need to kind of then be 100% focused rather than, I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people that are spending more time with their children than I am, but there's not a lot of them that spend the kind of quality time that I do, because when I spend time with them, I'm 100% focused. Yes, I'm 100% focused on them. And I think that's also something that you have to prioritize. You cannot, I don't think at least, if you want to have a balanced life, a balanced work life with a successful business potentially and a happy wife and family, you cannot, bring work all the time into your private life. You need to have pockets of time where you're 100% focused on them, because if you don't, I think it's going to go sideways. We all need attention, caring, love, and if you're not able to give that in that period of time, then and you're not, if your phone is always on and you're doing emails while you're trying to, play with your son or daughter. That's great
advice.
That's not working. That's not working.
Yeah. Jimmy, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Did you like what you just saw? You want to see more? Go ahead and subscribe. We have new episodes every Tuesday. And if there's someone you want to see on the show, just add them as a comment down below. We'll take a look and we'll have them on if we can. Thanks again.